if you're listing a commercial space in whatever neighborhood, it's just as important to talk about that neighborhood and that ancillary location as it is the space itself. Who's going to want to go lease a restaurant space or a storefront if the area isn't booming and if there's not good commerce that's to be had?
Joined now by commercial real estate extraordinaire Josh Rothstein, who is now the vice president at Colliers, vice president for Cincinnati and Dayton. Is that the official title?
Yep, and it also incorporates Northern Kentucky.
Cincinnati, Northern, yeah,
yep.
The whole, yeah. So welcome back, by the way. You were a guest here on the show back in the early days of late April 2026. Glad to have you back, and you've had some big changes. You have changed jobs and working for a whole other outfit now. How has that been?
Yeah, so I was at the last firm for 14 years, and an opportunity presented itself for growth, for involvement in other disciplines in commercial real estate, and to join a dramatically growing team at Colliers, and I just couldn't turn it down. So here we are. That change happened right after I was on the show, so I'm about 2.5 months into it. It's been great so far. My exposure to different facets of commercial real estate has already been prevalent, and I truly am loving it.
Yeah, that's great, because first of all, I know what it's like when an opportunity comes along that you can't say no to. And, you know, I remember when that transition happened, when Colliers announced it, they put out a very complimentary announcement about bringing you in. That's got to make you feel great.
It was awesome. And then the Business Courier and the Inquirer picked it up. And look, to me, I just basically went from one brokerage to another. People do that in real estate, in residential and commercial all the time. But then this news thing comes out, and I'm getting all these wonderful notes of congratulations and phone calls, and really excitingly, listing opportunities from folks that say, hey, now that you're with Colliers, they have a huge international platform. Can you sell my building? Can you lease my restaurant space? So truly, it's been marvelous so far.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, for being in such a relationship sort of business, having new people reaching out to form new connections with you, that's like the dream, right?
Yeah, it's been cool. And then what's even more exciting is that Colliers, after being at 425 Walnut, right across from Fountain Square, for over 15 years, they moved offices to the GE building at the Banks.
Okay, right on.
At the same time that I started. So it was nice for me to have also a fresh start while everybody else had a fresh start, moving into this beautiful tower.
That's cool.
Right in the middle of downtown, in between the Bengals and the Reds stadium.
Yeah.
So it's fun for me to physically go to work, and it's also really exhilarating to be part of this team. So it's been great so far. Thank you.
So this new position, this VP position that you've got, how is this different than what you were doing before? I know last time we were on, we had you on, you were talking a lot of retail and still specifically focused in commercial. How does Colliers now opened up what your bag of tricks is?
So my day-to-day is more or less the same as it relates to the things that I work on. Retail space, restaurant space, commercial buildings, selling and or leasing. That's the same. The differences are Colliers, because it's such a big platform, I can now build a team. So I can build a team of folks who want to do the same kind of work that I do. I am a listing guy, okay? That is still going to stay the same, and it's only going to get bigger, I hope. So I can now have other agents that, whether they've been in residential and they've always wanted to really do commercial, or they've been in commercial and they want to dig deeper into retail, we can take on as many folks as the business that we have supports.
Right on.
So I have that opportunity. So not only am I doing the brokerage work that I've always been doing, but I'm also now sort of managing and leading a team that will grow as I grow through the business, so that more folks can do what we're doing. And to me, my goal is that we become the dominant retail listing players in the greater Cincinnati commercial real estate market.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, that's a nice goal. Hey, speaking of commercial real estate, since you're here, we had the big announcement sort of at the start of the show about the city of Newport stepping in on buying some, let's say, Newport icons.
That have brass in the name.
That have brass in the name. And the city wanting to really sort of take control of what that becomes. From a commercial real estate perspective, is that something that you like to see? What does that mean from your point of view?
So I love to see that. I should not admit, but I have been to one of those establishments before.
Okay.
And with the growth and the enhancements that not only Newport, but Ludlow, Dayton, Covington, Kentucky are all doing right now, replacing some of the blighted establishments and really improving and enhancing the whole landscape is what is necessary. So I think what Newport did is they seized an opportunity to take property and control it so that they can be assured that the types of businesses that replace this property will be aligned with the cohesive plan for growth. I think that's the nicest, most politically neutral way to say that.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, Newport is a riverfront city that joins the rest of the riverfront in Kentucky, and they are this close to being just as competitive as any of the nicer areas in Cincinnati. These are the things that will help propel it to get to that place.
Yeah, I was going to say a follow-up to that would be, what other sort of things does Newport need to do to get itself across that line?
I think Newport, look, we've got a big problem with this bridge closure. A lot of these businesses in both Covington and Newport and the rest of northern Kentucky, some of them are really struggling right now. But this is a long-term investment that will help the growth down the road. I think Newport has made those tough decisions, and they're doing all the things that any municipality or city would need to do to stabilize a place and make it so that it's ready for growth down the future, but it's doing these things.
Yeah, right. Yeah, taking the time, making the investment, and for something like that, that's basically right there on Main Street for all intents and purposes.
If only they could have more landings along the river so that the boaters out there, Cincinnati too, could have more options for docking. I mean, it's one of the best opportunities that we have as greater Cincinnatians is that river. There just aren't that many places to stop on it, but that's a dream of mine.
Right on. Okay, well, something to work for.
Maybe. Yeah.
You said you are a listing guy, and social media is such a big part of what you're doing specifically. And I know there's probably a few other folks doing it too, but I mean, you have really leaned into the social media aspect of selling commercial real estate. And I pulled a couple of your more recent listings. You had a sale. I got to say, man, this is pretty clever. Doing a 1776 sale for Mikey's Late Night Slice going back to the 4th of July. Was that just a quick passing idea? Or?
Yeah, so right around July 4th, this property is so cool.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, basically within the last year, there were a lot of issues with over the Rhine, with crime, et cetera. But that property, Mikey's Late Night Slice, which is basically next to Rhinegeist, it is so cool. Full service, turnkey, bar, restaurant, patio, garage doors, everything you'd ever want. And we just need to make sure that it gets out in front of the folks that are positioned right now to maybe acquire a property like that. So coming up on the heels, the listing price prior to that was $1.8 million. And I'm like, why don't we reduce it to 1776 in honor of the 250th birthday of America and see if that takes. So just little tricks like that you can use social media to further propel out to the viewers is what we do differently.
Yeah, well, and in terms of little tricks, there's also a post of yours that I made sure to grab because I've always really liked this spot. I didn't realize it was up for sale until I saw your post about it. The Silverton Hardware store, and I know one of the pictures that you had was of I think it was your daughter was in front of the place. Is there? I mean, it's all sort of fair game when it comes to trying to advance the job, right?
Sure. Look. That Silverton Hardware store, which is truly in the heart of Silverton,
which is a staple in that area.
It is, and it's still operational. It's a cool hardware store. They do a great business. You ever need your screen replaced, or you want to understand how tools work, or you need somebody to actually help you? This is not Home Depot or Lowe's.
Yeah, I know. I've used their leather guy.
Yeah. The baggage guy, he does. You would be surprised at the business that guy does. But anyways, that building, that was the first new banner that I had installed. And my daughter, who's going to be 7 soon, as she travels around Cincinnati, she loved pointing out Daddy's banners. So that one being the first of the Colliers, I had to take the photo. But fair game, look, she's adorable. Sure. And I've even done property tours with her. We had a medical space that was a former doctor's office, and I said, Emma, why don't you walk through and give the viewers a tour of the space? And she brought her little stuffed animal and her kid's doctor outfit, and she's like, this is where my lovey gets its heart checked. This is where you get the shots. So again, little tricks, whatever works. And I found that it kind of does. So as long as it stays in bounds and it's different and it gets people watching, the name of the game is get the property out there, market it. There are so many ways to market property. I'm just trying to lean into whatever is at my disposal.
Yeah, sure, because I mean, it's just about getting the word out there. You've certainly leaned into the social media aspect of things and trying to create, for maybe lack of a better word, content that's going to be compelling for folks to, even if they're not in the market to buy a piece of commercial real estate, hey, this guy made a video where he opened up a closet and there was a weird spine in there because it was a chiropractor office. Like, just doing stuff like that's going to get people's attention, I think is, maybe the road less traveled for your industry.
I think so too. And what I found when I started 14 years ago is the degrees of separation that a customer or client of mine sits at. It's not 6 degrees. Sometimes it's 1.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of you learning that I have a restaurant for sale. Well, your neighbor is a bar operator and has been looking to open up a restaurant. Or you watching that silly video of a chiropractic office, which is for sale in Westchester. Well, maybe your aunt is a chiropractor and you know that she wants to open up a 3rd office. So whatever I can do to just get it out there, it's just marketing in different ways.
Well, sure. In this town, you're very much about people having connections. It's a relationship industry that you're in. And, when you know somebody who knows somebody. Real quick, speaking of knowing people, I do got to ask you about this one other thing. I found this, City Beat had this picture of a guy that we also had here on the show. This is actually a little bit of a who's who in working lunch cinematic universe lore. Of course, on the far left there is Mark Borison, who's been doing some really great promotional work for Jungle Gyms. We had him on the show early on too. That's you in the middle, and then you guys are both there with Harrison Bear, who's a young man who started this mystery machine vending company. We also had him on the show. I just love the synergy in this thing. What kind of soda did you get? Do you remember?
My daughter got the gold can.
Oh, no kidding.
And I got, if I recall correctly, I think a Diet Cherry 7-Up, which I don't think I've had since I was a little kid. But I remember stumbling upon Harrison on Instagram. He put his stuff out there on social media, and I'm thinking, what is this? But it seems so unique and different. And then I dig a little deeper and learn that he liquidated his 401k. He basically gave up everything to start this idea. And I don't care what industry it is. I am a huge proponent of anybody that invests in themselves. That's what I did when I started in real estate 14 years ago. You don't get a salary. He doesn't get a salary. He just wanted to try this out, and I am in full support of that. So when I saw that he was having that grand opening, which I think was outside of Al's Delicious Popcorn on Main Street, I said, I've got my daughter that day. We're going to go check it out, support this guy. And he had a whole crew, and Mark was there to support him because I think he gets a lot of his drinks through,
that makes sense.
Yeah, through Jungle Gyms, which Mark is a huge proponent of. And look, Cincinnati, it's a small city, but it feels big. You can be connected with people like that. And we've become friendly. And we're going to do some more fun little collaborations in the ensuing months just because I love watching him grow, and he needs good locations. So I can help him, I can support him, and I just hope that more people in our community do stuff, take that risk, because that's what you really are meant to do in this world if you're not a 9-to-5 sit behind a desk kind of person.
Yeah, sure. And then, finding connections and trying to innovate. That's a constant thing in any industry.
Through those long nights, but you never late, you always on time. Remember when you
situated right next door to Braxton Brewing Company with one of the best rooftops in all of Greater Cincinnati, we are conveniently located right in the heart of it all. So when it seems impossible to get a reservation in downtown or OTR, just hop across the river and pop into Covington, where there are plenty of spots that you can try out.
I'll never get used to this. This is how I wanna live. Forever we'll be singing like, oh, walk about the grave, yeah, I'm alive now. Told the devil, boy, you out of time now. Spirit moving in me on my fire now.
Welcome back to The Working Lunch. I'm Jack Crumley, joined by VP for Regional Commercial Real Estate for Colliers, Josh Rothstein, joining us. Now, that video, we talk about you putting things up on social media. That isn't even a video that's listing properties that you have for sale. That's you just talking up the area. And that is as valuable to you as potentially anything else that you're putting online, yeah?
Yeah, so if you're listing a commercial space in whatever neighborhood, it's just as important to talk about that neighborhood and that ancillary location as it is the space itself. Who's going to want to go lease a restaurant space or a storefront if the area isn't booming and if there's not good commerce that's to be had? So I do have a listing in Covington, which is within the scope of where that video was, but you're right, that video was deliberately designed to highlight the neighborhood, Covington, the views of Cincinnati that it has, the historical charm that it's always had, and the boom that everybody's experiencing. And that is what I have found adds to more success in listings, just sort of dancing around it and then it helps to propel the listing itself indirectly.
Yeah, getting people to notice it in general instead of feeling like something's being sold to them.
Right.
You've got an interesting sort of theory about when it comes to, the way a given part of town or a given neighborhood can develop and evolve, and it's the idea of this like sort of anchor thing. And if there can be maybe just one business in a given area that really gets people's attention and is a popular place to be, then everything else can sort of spring up around it. I think you referenced, Goodfellas Pizza in Pleasant Ridge as an example of that. I think the Matamore in Madisonville is another example that you've given of that. Does that apply everywhere?
I think to a certain extent it does. This sort of buzz phrase of live, work, play, really what that means when you strip it apart is that you have to have a reason or reasons for people to be somewhere. Density. If somebody is on the hunt for some sort of commercial real estate, they need to know that there are going to be people there to buy the goods or services that they are going to sell if it's retail real estate. So Pleasant Ridge having Goodfellas, that was a huge stimulus that served as the catalyst for, that did a couple things. It showed that an OTR business, and Goodfellas has a location in Covington as well, but that an OTR business is looking at Little Pleasant Ridge, and by the way, what is Pleasant Ridge?
Right.
And how are they so special that Goodfellas Pizzeria is interested in opening there? And after that happened, then other businesses followed, and it served as that catalyst for more synergistic shopping and buying to be had in that neighborhood. So yes, wherever it is, it always helps to have that anchor that will draw people there, whether it's a big daytime employer, whether it's a couple good restaurants. You look at the banks. The banks happened primarily because, I'm talking about the retail and restaurant establishments, because it sits in between the Bengals and the Red Stadium. So that served as the catalyst for getting all the other businesses sprinkled in there. And that's what put together the whole project.
What are you seeing, speaking really generally, in the commercial real estate space here in this region? What is it that property owners are worried about? Are we seeing, a lot of big deal always gets made about, when such and such of a restaurant is closing. How much of that is just general life cycle stuff of, circle of life, something opens, something closes, things run their course and then they're done? What are you seeing from like a 30,000 foot perspective?
So I'm seeing that there's a lot of mixed use projects happening, which would be basically multifamily above, storefront space below. I'm seeing that there's sort of this emphasis on developing in the suburbs. I think that a lot of restaurants that started in Over the Rhine at the time when we all became more comfortable with going to Over the Rhine, sort of when Manhattan's commercial vibe fell a little bit and downtown's rose, specifically OTR, a lot of those restaurants and retailers are now looking at suburbs. There are mixed-use projects that are happening in Mason, Deerfield Township, Blue Ash, Madisonville, Westchester, and I think that the thesis behind that is a lot of suburbanites, when they've got kids or they've got minivans, and the idea of going downtown, parking a couple blocks away, maybe being a little timid to go back to your car at night while you've got your kids in the stroller. Think about how much more convenient it is when you're going to the suburbs where there's more land, there's more accessible parking, it's easier to get to, it's easier for people to meet you there. It just creates ultimately a more convenient approach. We're also seeing that restaurants are really having a hard time still. It started during COVID, costs rose, people's buying habits changed, people's discretionary income dropped a little bit, which hasn't helped anybody in any industry. So restaurants are having a really hard go at it. It's hard to staff these places anymore. And when you do staff them, a lot of the people, they're fleeting. They're there one day, they're gone the next. So supporting local restaurants has really never been important. Now, when you look at the national chains, like the Outback Steakhouses, the Red Lobsters, a lot of them that I thought were on their way out, they're sort of being revived. They're leaning into nostalgia from the past. One of the restaurants is big on those cheese pool things, and that actually had a huge, it produced a huge spike in their business. So at the end of the day, Jack, you never know. You can read and you can think and you can look at stats, but anything could change at any day, and you have to read up and you have to watch it day to day to stay in front of the curve.
Yeah, speaking of big national chains, what are you seeing as far as who's interested in leasing space and buying space right now? Is it the local owner? Is it big national chains? Is it still a mix?
It's definitely still a mix. I have seen that the discount shopping, like the TJ Maxxes of the world, those have always stayed strong. And I think they stay strong because there's value. And it's sort of an experience when you know that you can go to a TJ Maxx and you may have a completely different array of product one week to the next.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like a hunt. This other store just opened up in the Pleasant Ridge area. It's called Crazy Bins. So this is a
we
huge.
talked about them on the show.
It's huge,
Yeah.
and people go because they know that they're going to get different product every week. So it creates an experience. Restaurants are still active for sure, especially when one restaurant closes and leaves behind a space that has the hood, the fire suppression,
Right.
all the equipment. There is value to that. So the restaurateurs that really want to be in a market or they're staged for growth, they will take those. And then of course you got to look out for the Amazon-proof businesses. The storefronts, like you can't get your hair cut on Amazon. You can't really truly go see a doctor on Amazon, even though there's virtual medicine. So those businesses that have not been touched or phased by Amazon or eBay or what have you, those are taking retail space as well.
Interesting. That's interesting. You've been doing this commercial real estate thing for 14 plus years now. What's like one thing that you wish either a prospective client or a landlord, what's like one thing that you wish was more common knowledge for folks?
That this stuff takes time. So I'm in real estate, but people assume that commercial real estate must be similar to residential real estate, where if you want to sell your house, you put it on the market, you should have a couple offers within a few days,
Right.
and then they should do their inspections, and within another week, you should be ready to basically work through it and then get ready for closing. My deal cycle, I would say on average, it's like 9 months. So it takes a while to get these properties to penetrate through the market. It takes a while to get offers put together. It takes a while for people to get committed to leasing that space and figure out what the build-out's going to be. But if people just knew and realized that you have to be super, super patient relative to what they know of residential real estate, it would make my job a lot easier, my stress level much lower. But it is what it is. I'm used to it.
Interesting. In terms of what's coming up, do you see any signs on your end of maybe a neighborhood that's about to become a little bit more popular, or a business sector that's buying up and setting up shop in different areas? Is there any sort of what's on the radar yet that isn't on the radar yet, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so as Cincinnati and Dayton get closer together and potentially become truly the Cincinnati-Dayton Metroplex, I think people need to look out for Dayton. Southern Dayton up until Oakwood, which is a charming little neighborhood that's very similar to Hyde Park. Middletown, watch out for Middletown. Middletown is poised. It's right in the geographical center of Cincinnati-Dayton. And there are some beautiful homes in Middletown. It used to be thriving, and then it went through its transition. But there's a lot of development on the horizon for Middletown. Hamilton, most of us know that Hamilton has really seen a boom, so that's been great. And then where the Silverton hardware store is. Silverton is to be watched. A lot of people think Oakley is the next best thing or Madisonville is, but Silverton has long not been talked about, but it's surrounded by all of these nice areas. And the development that's happening as we sit here today, AG 47 is doing their next phase. Wawa just opened up a couple of months ago, but there's a lot of turnover still yet to be had, and Silverton is really poised to make a huge comeback, and people should watch out for it.
There we go. Watch out for Silverton. Congratulations, Silverton, on being listed as watch out status. Josh Rothstein, commercial real estate extraordinaire, VP now with Colliers. This is a guy, he's posting things online. He's getting the word out there to folks. Thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.